A few weeks ago, we did a video about how to move abroad literally tomorrow. And one of the ways Americans can do this is by taking advantage of the DAFT program with the Netherlands. We received so many comments from viewers as well as people in our email and our Instagram about this pathway that we knew we needed to provide more information.
Now, at first glance, DAFT seems really simple. You, as an American, can fly to the Netherlands, and while you're still on your 90-day tourist visa, you can set up a business, deposit 4,500 euros into a business account, apply for residency, and voila, now you live in the Netherlands. But as you'll find out in this video, there is a little bit more to know before you pack your bags.
Now, DAFT, the DAFT program, DAFT, stands for the Dutch-American Friendship Treaty, which has been a program that's been in existence since just after World War II, so about 80 years. Still is an opportunity today for Americans to move to the Netherlands and start a business right away. And recently, Dawn had a chance to speak with an expert on this.
That's right. I sat down with Diederick Cardon of Cardon and Company, and they are a business that helps Americans do exactly this, set up a business in the Netherlands to take advantage of DAFT. And I was so impressed with Diederick and how knowledgeable he was and how well he broke down everything that's needed for DAFT that I asked him to come onto the channel and share with you some of the things that you should know before applying for DAFT. So here's our interview with Diederick. So, hi, Diederick. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, to start off, please take a moment and tell everybody watching a little bit about who you are and what you do.
My name is Diederick. I am a lawyer from the Netherlands. There's a distinction between lawyers and attorneys in the Netherlands. I'm not a registered attorney and not allowed to go to court, but I am I hold LLMs and I work in the legal field. I think off the bat, that's an important thing to mention that in the Netherlands, the market for legal services is divided about 50-50 between registered attorneys and lawyers. In the Netherlands, we call them jurists. And they are basically for what we're doing, it's all equal. So that's off the bat. So I'm not a registered attorney anymore. I work in the field of immigration and business. So the DAFT ties in really well there. So it's an immigration process and it's also a business registration process where there are business elements, tax elements, as well as immigration elements. For people starting in this field, it can be quite daunting because there's so many fields coming together, and that's what we do. We bring everything together in an understandable way for our clients, and we help them in pursuing this avenue.
So, one of the reasons it was so important to me to have you on the show is that I had reached out to you about DAFT and I had some questions, and I was so impressed with how thorough the amount of information that you gave me was. And it made me realize that this is not as simple as it appears. I starts with I'm an American, I want to move to the Netherlands, I've got $4,500, I start a business, I put it in a bank, I apply, boom, I'm done. But there's so much more here, which is why it's so important to have somebody guide you through this process. And I think probably if I understand right, the first question that I need to ask is what kind of business structure is even best for me, right?
That's correct. And just to answer to tie into your first remark, yes, there's a lot involved. People tend to think they see the big picture, especially given ChatGPT and everything, all the knowledge we have at hand. But like you need to have someone who understands the practicalities and everything that comes into the picture in this process. And yeah, guys like me, we do that. Indeed, the business registration is where it all starts. If you are a low income, I mean low income is in like under 70K per year, you're looking at a sole prop, the Dutch sole proprietorship is called the ZZP. It's a completely different process. It's a company registration you perform at the very end of the immigration process. The accounting requirements are different. So that's completely different from if you're a high earner, like a 70K plus person, then you might be looking at a BV in the 30% ruling, which is a company setup and it's a tax break. And this process is completely different. And we offer both these services, these processes in package deals.
So I want to start with the ZZP because I think most people are going to start here. And the reason that I say that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, this is all going off of the information that you sent me,
Yeah.
is that when you apply for DAFT, you don't need to prove any income when you apply, but you do need to provide proof of income within a certain time. And like you said, there's a clear break between under 70 or over 70. So if I'm coming to the Netherlands, I'm just starting my business fresh, I'm probably going to be a ZZP. Tell me about the income requirements that I need to be aware of.
So I like to think of the DAFT visa as more like a promise process. So you start the process making a promise that you are going to meet the requirements at the gates. At the start of the process, there's very little in terms of checks on that. So you need to deposit an amount of money, and you need to gather proof of that deposit after you register the company, of course, and then you start to run your company. But they don't actually check up on that. They don't actually check up on a monthly basis on the amount of income you gather. What this is all about is the 2-year timer. After 2 years, you're going to come up for renewal, and then they're going to want to see financial information pertaining to the company before they are going to issue you your renewal. So that's basically what we keep in mind every time we set someone up with a DAFT visa. We have to make sure that you're gonna be able to meet the requirements after 2 years as well. And that's where basically only then are they going to check up on the financial requirements. And then, as a rule, you would need to be looking at least 1,700 euros per month as a monthly income for month 7 onwards. That's not to say they check it up in month 7, but looking back after 2 years, that's something that you should be seeing.
So I'm an American. I'm coming over. I don't have any income yet. I'm going to put the 4,500 euros in an account,
Yeah,
and I'm going to want to be earning at least $1,700 or more by month 7,
yeah.
even though it's not checked until the end of 2 years. That's the target I want to have in mind, right?
That's correct. And a small asterisk there, people are even meeting the 2 years requirements without meeting the 1,700 euros requirements because they were able to prove that they performed work for the company, spent time in the company, invested in the company, but just did not manage to make it turn a profit in that time. But as a rule, I would not let it come that far.
Okay. Okay. And let me just ask you, what kinds of people are you seeing using this? We're going to talk about BV in a minute, but for the ZZP, tell me, are these content creators? Are they like, do you have a sense of what types of people are using DAFT for this right now?
Well, the IND likes to think of DAFT applicants as highly skilled migrants. It's not technically the case, but they consider them desirable migrants because they bring skills with them, and that's also reflected in the applications we see. We see techies, financial people, marketing people, freelancers, contractors, many exceeding the 70K marker very easily. That being said, there are also small company owners. There are also like people who want to work even like in a tattoo parlor or even dog walking businesses. We see that a lot because that's apparently really a big thing in the United States. So we see that too. But as a rule, it's more like we see more higher incomes than lower incomes under DEFT.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So that's the ZZP. That's really great for somebody who is starting out, does not expect to meet that 70,000 euro income requirement right away. But if somebody does believe they're going to meet that, then there is the other option, which is BV, which comes with a huge tax break. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, high earning people in the Netherlands who come into regular employment at companies like Nike or Booking.com as expats, and they earn X amount of salary, let's say 70,000 euros per month, sorry, per year or more.
Yeah.
They are eligible for a 30% ruling tax break, which is an employee tax break. Now, if you play your cards right, you can get this employee tax break also in a self-employed manner. And that's where the BV company registration comes into the picture, because it's a separate legal entity. It's not a see-through entity as a CCP. And that separate legal entity makes for that you can enter into an employment relationship with it as a director. And this is where you can get the 30% ruling expat tax break applied to your salary as a director, and by extension also to your income as a contractor. That's the package we advise in those situations, and this requires you to play your cards right, set up your BV before your migration, also enter into an employment contract with the BV before your migration, so you have a correct paper trail that establishes you as an incoming expat, as opposed to being a domestic hire after setting everything up after you move, because then the tax authorities say, well, you're already a local guy or girl. So why should we be giving you the tax break? You're already here. So that's really the distinguishing part, that you are able to prove you started that process before your migration, designating you as an expat, as we say in the Netherlands.
Right. So if I were to come over and I was a partner with a spouse, or maybe just a partner with somebody else who was also coming over as an American, could more than one person get that 30% tax
Yeah.
benefit?
So to make that distinction, the 30% ruling is a tax break to be obtained at the tax authorities, and it's combined with a visa, but it can also be completely separate from a visa. So a 30% ruling can be obtained by anybody who meets the salary criterion and also gets a work permit to work in the Netherlands. The DAFT visa gives the main applicant a work permit to work self-employment in their own self-owned BV only, and the family member, the spouse, can work in regular employment as well. So then you have the work permit that's required for the 30% ruling, and then that person only needs to find employment at the income level that's required for the 30% ruling, and they can apply for the 30% ruling in likewise manner.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me more about that, because I know a lot of people are going to be really curious about that, about moving a spouse over, or maybe they even have a family. So how would I approach that if that was something I was looking to do?
So first off, under DAFT, everybody in the nucleus of family can join. So that's the minor children, and that's the spouse, or the unmarried partner. As long as you have a household together, you can join the children, and they can go to school, and they can go to daycare. And the spouse gets the right to work in whichever capacity they choose, but they need to wait until the final verdict of the DAFT visa. This takes about 2.5 months from beginning of application to end. At this moment, next year that might be take a little bit longer, but that's it. So everybody can take their family. If you bring children from a previous marriage and the ex-spouse is still around, you would need either divorce papers that show you have full custody over the child, or a declaration of consent from the ex that you are okay with, that they are okay with you bringing the children. Or if the ex-spouse is not around anymore, then there's a death certificate of the spouse. And in some cases, we see that sometimes there is no spouse, there is no father, or there is no mother, and there's basically a one person child, and there's a situation where the child was obtained without having a partner, and this can
Yeah.
also be obtained. Then the child needs to have a cross marked on their child's birth certificate showing that there is no other parent, and then the child can follow. So these are all the exceptions. Now back to the main situations we encounter. The spouse can join. What we see a lot is that the spouse then joins the main applicant in the BV and also seeks a 30% ruling there. So then they can together work from their BV company and work for their separate clients and gather their income there, and then payroll themselves as directors on the 30% ruling. So then you have a mom and pop shop, as you have, if you will, gathering the income and working from there. We see that a lot.
Okay. And then I just want to clarify this, because I see this a lot, this question a lot in forums, expat forums, and that is that if you are not at that 70 thousand euros or more
Yeah.
a year currently, and you come in on ZZP, you can convert to BV later, but you cannot get the 30% ruling. That only
That's
comes if you apply for it initially. Is that correct? Do I have that
Yeah,
right?
that's correct. So the ZZP can be converted to a BV. There are a number of ways in which you can do that, but you cannot obtain the 30% ruling after first having had a ZZP. I mean, even having had a ZZP disqualifies you from getting a 30% ruling, because that designates you as a low income employee, basically.
Yeah.
Secondly, you cannot get the designation incoming expat anymore, because you are already in the country and you've worked for a CCP a while and then went to a BV. So that door is firmly shut if you don't pursue it straight at the beginning.
Okay. Okay, great. So tell me, for somebody who says, this sounds great, I'm ready to get started, what kind of paperwork should they expect to have? And is that paperwork they should all gather and have ready in the US before they come to the Netherlands? Because before you get to that, I just want to jump in and say you can just move to the Netherlands
Yeah,
and start the process here within your 90-day visa, right?
that's correct. So just looking at the simple DAFT setup and the requirements that apply there, you would need passport copies, obviously, that are valid for at least 6 months. Everybody needs to have a birth certificate, and everybody and the spouse and the main applicant, they need to have a marriage certificate if they're married, or if they're not married but they live together, then they need to prove that they're not married to someone else, which means that they need to provide a single status affidavit or non-married status certificate, by whichever name it goes in that county clerk's office where you're from. And these documents, they all need to be apostilled, which is a certification that this document is usable
Mm.
cross-border. Without an apostille, yeah, such a legal document is only usable for domestic purposes. If you attach an apostille to it, you can use it in every other country that is party to the Apostille Treaty of 1963, I believe. So this is something that you would need wherever you go, be it Portugal, be it Spain, be it the Netherlands.
Yeah, the thing that I want to say about that, because if somebody's watching right now and they feel kind of overwhelmed by that, the reason that, again, it was so important to have you on the show is that you sent an email and you just outlined all of this.
Yeah.
So it really is, I mean, you make it easy in terms of follow this and then do this and do this, which makes it overwhelming amount of stuff, but easy to follow. So I think that's really helpful. You mentioned earlier that the process takes about 2.5 months currently, but you expect that it might take longer in the future. Tell me more about that.
So I previously mentioned that the IND clearly makes a distinction between desirable and undesirable visa applications. And the IND in 2024 made the decision that DAFT applicants are in fact desirable visa applicants, and they experience such a high level of quality of these applicants that they decided to expedite the visa process. And expediting means that every visa applicant still needs to meet the requirements, but these requirements do not get checked straight at the beginning. And the requirements being the company registration, the bank account opening, and the 4,500 euros deposit, and the accountant's balance sheet to testify that 4,500 euros deposit. It used to be that you needed to have this complete file and then submit it, and then your 2.5 months timer started. Nowadays, that's not the case. They still reserve the rights for random checkups, and this sometimes happens, but they will trust that that you will obtain these documents, and they sure as hell want to see those documents after 2 years. But they will not let the process be held back by you obtaining those documents at the beginning. So that's very convenient, especially for people who are waiting for the spouse visa to land, so that the spouse visa can work in regular employment, because this greatly expedites that waiting time.
So how long do you so 2.5 months is the expedited time, or you think it's even
Now,
gonna be faster going forward?
nowadays, and if it's the case that it's going to be turned back, we don't know. I mean, I think in 2026 they're going to evaluate the situation, either extend that pilot, or they're going to say, well, we've had so many new applicants due to so and so circumstance that we're going to wind back to the original state, and we want to do some preliminary checks before we proceed. In those
Mhm.
cases, the process time is extended by the time it takes you to gather the documents, and that means basically registering for BSN, getting your KVK, opening a bank account, depositing it. That's basically what holds it back. In the meantime, you can hire an accountant to get the balance sheet, but this can easily take 1.5 months longer than it used to be.
Yeah, yeah. I do want to say, I have another question about that. I do want to jump in and just say something else that I found really helpful from our communication that we had is obviously finding housing in the Netherlands is very difficult. And you actually have a referral that you mentioned just for anybody who wants to come in there, like, I don't know about housing. You actually had somebody that you referred, right?
Yeah, so we work together with Liga. She's an expat, self-employed person herself, so she's been around the block with this one because you're an incoming expat and you don't have a fixed employment contract. So if you're looking for regular for a lease contract from a landlord, then that's 2 strikes down. So you need someone who helps you navigate that. You cannot show pay slips. You cannot show any regular stuff. So she will help you provide that the comfort to the landlords, and she's done a great job at that. But there are other real estate agents out there who do a good job as well. But we recommend, as an incoming expat business owner, you work with a real estate agent because this is what they're for.
Yeah. So tell me, getting back to the DAFT, I just wanted to mention that because I know that's a big concern for people finding housing. But I do want to get back to the DAFT. And I just want to say, for the person watching who's very interested in doing this, what kind of success rate do you see? If somebody comes and they apply, is this something that has a high success rate for Americans?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things to consider. So the visa application itself at this point can only be denied if you don't pay the IND fee upon our very clear and outlined instructions. So that's just up to you. Secondly, if you turn out to have a criminal record in the EU area, by criminal record, we don't mean DUI or any FBI background checks or anything like that, but really European felonies. If that's not the case, then at this stage, you are going to get the initial DAFT visa. That doesn't mean that it can go wrong, but because it can go wrong, when we see things go wrong, we see people turning back, it's because they are overwhelmed by what's going on, and they jump into moving to the Netherlands, working self-employed, finding housing, taking their kids, and they basically get cold feet, and they say, well, I'm just not going to do this, and they turn back. Or after X amount of months of working in the Netherlands, they realize that this is not it's not going to work out, and they want to move back. So we see a lot of people backtracking, a lot of people going back, not necessarily because the visa application is denied, but because of additional circumstances.
Okay. Okay, good. And I just want to say that we're going to, if somebody's watching this and they feel like, great, I want to get started, we're going to leave all the information about where somebody can reach out to you and get that process started. But tell us, what are just like some things that you think Americans should know? Some warnings or some things to think about, or anything we didn't cover?
Yeah, so I think what I just mentioned, everybody, like I'm just mentioning a couple of things that you don't need. So people assume that you need a FBI background check or some certificate that confirms that you have a clean bill in the United States. That's not the case. Nobody's asking for that. Secondly, business plan as a business owner, that's not the case. I do have to give some negative credit to the IND website, because if you look up the DAFT visa, that technically it says that you need a business plan, but it's just not the case. So some people get thrown off course by that. These are some main things to consider. Also, language tests, learning Dutch. It's all really nice to at some point move forward with, but you don't need this at the beginning, because everybody's going to speak English back to you anyway.
Yeah.
So these are not things to consider. What could be things to consider? I mean, working self-employed from the Netherlands, you could continue your 1099 work. You can work as a contractor, or you can work for your current employer in a different way. But just make sure your current employer is okay with you working from the Netherlands and not from the United States anymore. So, for example, if you have a U.S. company, a sole proper LLC for 1099 work, your client wants to pay you there, and now they'll have to pay you to your new Dutch company. I mean, there are workarounds for that, but please talk to your clients and see how they feel about you working from the Netherlands from a Dutch company, then paying to that new Dutch company, or you need to keep that US LLC alive and let the payment flow through there. That's also an option. These are things to look into. And I mean, housing, scouting, making at least one trip before you make the move, checking out what works for you. Also schools, neighborhoods, all that practical stuff, which is outside of our sphere of influence, but which in the end affects what we're doing. That's something that we really recommend people look into. The business part, it's all taken care of. The visa part, don't get too hung up on that. I mean, that's I think the circling back to the beginning, people who only take care of the visa process for you. I mean, I would say there's so much else going on. There's also taxes, there's also stuff like that. So it's not only the visa process. So please also get advice about all the other stuff that goes on. Yeah, no, the really last point, taxes. If you come to the Netherlands, your tax situation will change because you're going to become a Dutch tax subject, especially for the spouse. If they think, well, I get to keep my job and I can work for my US company. That is true. You're going to be paying Dutch taxes first and foremost over that US W-2 income. And that's a completely different tax picture because that's full Dutch income tax without a 30% ruling. Then we recommend looking into structuring that so that you can look into a 30% ruling. So that very much lowers the tax burden. So look into taxes as much as you're looking into the immigration part. And then also the ancillary stuff, the practical stuff, the housing and the relocation.
All really good advice. And again, we say that all the time on the channel, always consult a professional, and just to avoid expensive mistakes down the road. Diederick, I want to say thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Again, we're going to share how to reach you in our show notes. And thanks again for joining us on the show.
All right. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon. Bye, notaries. Bye-bye.
So a big thank you to Diederick for his time in breaking down DAFT and what Americans need to know before you pack your bags. Again, I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to reach out to him and learn more about how this program would work for you. And we also want to let you know that if you are interested in setting up an online business and enjoying location freedom, which is everything we talk about on this channel, we do have an online course called the 90-Minute Business Blueprint, and it is a step-by-step action plan to take what you know and turn it into online income that you can earn from anywhere in the world. And if you want to see more videos about moving to and possibly starting a business in countries such as Slovenia, Montenegro, Croatia, and even Portugal, which is where we live, be sure to watch this playlist here.